To the extent that the mind is embroiled in the polarities of this and that, it cannot sink into proper meditation. The subtle nature of the mind remains hidden by the accumulation of piezoelectricity. Now, what does that mean? The accumulation of piezoelectricity. If you sit still enough and if you start to drop context, labels, the stories, you start to still the mind, you might notice activity. You might notice blinking. You might notice the energy in your body. And in our daily lives, the more we get caught up in reaction, in reactivity, that's like energy hitting resistors on a circuit board. If you imagine your body is a circuit board and it's been imprinted by pathways for the energy to flow, and over your life through the accumulation of reactions on purpose or conditions, sometimes the circuit board starts to get written or imprinted when we're young, too young to imprint our own circuit board. And these resistors get put on the board, and that blocks the flow of electricity. That blocks the flow of authenticity. And so, as we react, as we become polarized and express polarization by taking sides, by choosing this or that, it blocks the ability for the mind to do a deep dive into the undercurrents that are moving, the real stuff that's moving the choices and the patterns of one's life. And so by getting caught in the polarization of this and that, it creates little charges of electricity that get blocked and just get scrambled in the brain. And it doesn't allow the mind to settle in that peaceful stillness place beyond thought. If you think about it as you sit in meditation, you might notice the difficulty of going beyond thought. And you might notice that every time you blink, your reality resets and you go back to ground zero. Imagine that your body is this circuit board. There's electricity flowing through you, and thoughts and polarization is just accumulating piezoelectricity. The more we're on social media, the more we're caught up in the news cycles, the more we're not getting grounded out in nature, putting bare feet on the ground, connecting with nature and allowing it to help take the electricity out of the body, allow it to flow through where there's less of an accumulation. If we're not doing these things to take care of ourselves, then that'll hamper your spiritual practice. That'll hamper your ability to dig into the undercurrents, into the timeless, formless space of awareness. Now, does this matter? Maybe not. We'll find out at death, but then when the body dies and you get rebirthed, there's that process of amnesia, so you don't remember. So, in my opinion, it's better to know this while we're still alive, because you can live and die at the same time. Or you can die and live, let's say. So, if you can still your mind enough by giving up attachments, it's like the saying of it's harder to get a camel through the eye of a needle than it is to get a rich man into heaven. And Jerusalem, metaphorically, is heaven. And the camel, it seems impossible to get through the eye of a needle. But it turns out in the sidewall of Jerusalem is a hole called the keyhole, as I understand. And that is to get the camel in if invading forces are coming. So how do you get the camel through a keyhole in a little small hole in the wall? Is you unpack it of its burdens. It gets down on its knees and it crawls in. And that way, invading forces can't rush in. If they want to come in, they've got to unpack their burdens, get down. And so if you look at life as a metaphor, your whole life is symbolic. Everything in the physical world is symbolic on some level. And it's showing you the nature of your mind. So if you unpack your burdens to get the camel through the eye of the needle, what are the burdens? These are thoughts, concepts, opinions, grudges, attractions, and aversions. All of these things will keep you from getting into the kingdom of heaven, which is not some place off in the sky after death. Perhaps when death of the body occurs, there's a forced event where consciousness has to leave the body. So there may be an experience of heaven then, but we seem to like to become rebirthed. We seem to like this cycle of suffering because we don't generally have the courage to go all in or go all out and stay in that timeless, formless place. So there's something about this experience that we tend to be attracted to. Perhaps there's something that we're working out in this life. We want to have certain experiences. Perhaps through the accumulation of karma, we have some karma to unwind. It could be hundreds of millions of reasons why we're here, since there's all these bodies, billions of bodies. So there's a particular reason for each body to be here for a different reason than the other. So if you look at how complex that would be, hopefully it would make sense that choosing a polarization is not necessarily aligned with reality. It's aligned with an accumulation of energy that has been built up in the body that one is identified with, and it is possibly comfortable, but not aligned with reality. And the reason I would say that is because when you are able to drop everything, when you're able to fully surrender, when you're able to cross that threshold of fear of death and enter the timeless, formless space, the silent mind, in the silence, the kingdom of heaven is within, and it's in that silence where the whole world is making noise, and you exist in a timeless space of silent awareness. Still able to move, still able to operate, still functioning in the world. But the mind is no longer attached. So the practice of giving up attachments, giving up polarization of this and that, it seems risky. It seems like the world might fall apart if I don't hold on to my strong-held belief that I'm right about the way it should be. If I can give that up, it releases inner tension. It allows flow of electricity to go through where it's not bottlenecked, so to speak. And it allows for facilitation of sinking into true meditation where there's the experience of the silent mind. Now, when the silent mind occurs, that's where radical transformation happens. That's a place of transfiguration where you no longer exist as you knew yourself to be. You become a new man. You become a new woman, like a lightning bolt coming through you. And then life continues on. So there you go. It becomes an experience. It becomes something to aim for continuation, but it's a highly informative experience that can set the aim, let's say, turn the compass needle to where true north really is. Because once you know where true north is, there's nothing that can harm you. There's nothing that can do any damage to you anymore. And then you can pursue the spiritual path of finding out who you really are and testing things out. All right. I generally try to do a short video, but then I have this proclivity to speaking a little bit more. There's a lot in this, and it can go on for a long time. The main idea is to work on giving up reactivity to the world. There's a vast universe beyond the reactions and opinions of this world, and it has nothing to do with what the eyes see. It has nothing to do with what the hands touch and what the body feels. It has nothing to do with what the mind thinks. There's a world way beyond, far beyond anything that can be explained, and it can only be accessed when the polarities of this and that are surrendered.